A Star is Born. It's the Betsy podcast. Yes, I made the mistake of letting Betsy get in front of the camera, and now everybody wants me to go away and Betsy to take over. So sayonara. Been nice talking to you, folks. It's all yours, Betsy. Hey, stay tuned, everybody. We've got some fun coming on Ron Spomer Outdoors podcast. Hey, guys, I want to thank the Midwest Gunworks. Those guys helped me out with a rifle I've had a problem with, a broken extractor. They've told me that this is a really common issue. And I said, wait a minute, I've got a rifle that's been sitting gathering dust now for several years because the extractor broke, and I kind of put it aside. And I thought, where can I get one? And they said, well, what is it? I said, just a Mossberg Patriot. And they said, piece of cake. We've got parts for all kinds of stuff. And bingo, they sent it to me, and I fixed it up in no time. So if you've got a rifle, whether it's a new one, an old one you haven't used for quite a while, and there was an issue with it, and you were going to fix it, but you put it off like I do, give those guys a call at Midwest Gunworks and see if they don't have the part that you need to easily fix it and get that rifle back in business where it belongs. Now, we're hearing from one of our patrons, Pops. His name is Keith, and he goes by Pops, and he is going to Africa and asking me all kinds of questions, so he has his ducks in a row, and he does it right when he gets there. Let's just read what he has to say and see if we can help some of the rest of you plan for that first African safari. Hi, Ron. So, I mentioned to you that I'm preparing for a plains game hunt in Namibia. So my target species are going to be, say, a kudu and eland, a waterbuck, a blue wildebeest, and impala. And I'm planning to use my 7mm PRC in a SIG cross rifle. Boy, that's pretty different. That's not your classic African-style rifle. But it should work, and it works for you. Obviously, it's something that Keith likes, so let's see what else he says. I am considering a scope like a Leupold 3-9 with a fire dot reticle. I'm aiming for a setup that's simple and reliable in the fields. Ideally, something I can hold and go without needing to dial adjustments under pressure. You're singing my song here. For ammo, I have something like Swift A-frames I'd like to use out to, let's say, 300 yards. However, I'm wondering if I should also bring a higher BC option like Hornaday's ELDX or Federal's Terminal Ascent 170 grain bullet for longer shots or windier conditions. A few questions I would love your take on. Can I swap between the A-frame and the Terminal Ascent without worrying about copper fouling or this lead-copper interaction inaccuracy issue? Or should I just stick with an A-frame or the ELDX A-frame combo? What would you recommend as a point-blank zero for African plains game? Would a 6-inch vital zone be a good baseline? I'm thinking I can set up the A-frame for a point-blank range of about 300 yards, then handle any longer shots, perhaps with a dial using the ELDX, or, if compatible fouling-wise, that Terminal Ascent bullet. So I appreciate any insights you can share on this. I tend to forget things like dialing back down after a shot. Imagine that. So I'm looking for a solution that's forgiving and field-ready. Or should I just give it up and borrow a rifle from my PH when I get there? Well, Pops, I would say don't borrow a rifle. I've tried it both ways, and in my experience, it's way more fun to use your own rifle, something that you've sort of built up, tweaked, tested, and you really feel good about. It's just always more fun when we use our pet rifles. However, it is easier traveling without your rifle. It's not all that complicated anymore. We get the job done time and time again. But the few times that I have gone to Africa and borrowed rifles, I never had the satisfaction I gotten from my own. And the few times it actually cost me. And other people I've watched do this too. They shooting game and missing or wounding, and it just didn't make sense. And then we checked the rifle and it was shooting left or right or high or low or something after being assured by the pH that it was spot on. And one man's spot on isn't someone else's necessarily. And if there are any parallax issues with the scope between you and whoever sighted it in, you can have issues. Gosh, I've had loner rifles over there that didn't actually function smoothly. One of them was actually hitting the scope and hanging up. You had to sort of lean on the bolt to get it down to clear the scope's eyepiece. I don't want to be out hunting with products like that. So unless you get really good assurances from your PH that he has good rifles and it sounds like he knows what he's talking about and they're ready to go, I try to bring my own. So now, what about these bullets you're talking about? If you're doing plains game, I really don't think you need an A-frame bullet. Those bullets, of course, are heavily jacketed, copper jackets, lead core with a partition wall in them, so it's sort of like a beefed up partition. Great bullet for high weight retention and deep penetration, which you really don't need that much for the animals you mentioned. Now, an eland, yeah, that's a pretty good-sized animal, and the waterbuck is pretty big and tough, as well as the blue wildebeest and kudu, but I've taken all of those, and so has Betsy, with, well, she's used a 7mm 08 Remington, and she's used the 30-06 and the 308. I've done a 7 mag on an eland, and gosh, what else? With just most of the lighter cartridges are working just fine, and the lighter bullets as well, as long as it's the right bullet. I don't know that the ELDX would be the one I would recommend, though, on those bigger animals. A lot of guys swear by those bullets, and a lot of guys swear at them. So I think because it's a fairly traditional cup and core style bullet, it's not bonded and it's not partitioned, so you might want to hold off for those behind the shoulder shots with something like that. Now the terminal ascent, that one is a controlled expansion bullet that's going to probably retain weight like the A-frame does, but it has a higher ballistics coefficient due to its form factor. It's a more sleekly designed long boat tail style bullet. So that's the one I would lean to for the ones that you've mentioned. I think you're going to do just great with that one in 170 grains. So I would recommend you get that one tuned up and use it exclusively. This switching between different loads, different bullets, and then you've got to be worried about where's my sight picture for this load versus that load. I've tried this stuff, and many times I'll get mixed up. I'll forget which load that I switched to, or I won't change the scope, and it just adds another layer of confusion. Now, some people can handle this stuff easily and a lot more. It's just not the way I function. When I'm hunting, I just want to know my rifle is 0 for maximum point range, say 300 yards like you did, and go with it and not have to worry about, oops, I switched to a bullet that has a longer point blank range. Now I can go out to 320 yards or down to 280 and stuff. I just don't want to worry about that stuff. So I recommend that one good load for everything. And I think with the rifle you have, that caliber, the 7mm, you're going to be fine. And that one bullet at 170 grains, it's just not too big, it's not too small. It's the Goldilocks right there. And it's got everything you need. So that is my take on it. Now, if you don't get that thing to be accurate in your rifle, of course, you're going to have to change to something else. So give it a try, but think about some other bullets that might do a similar thing. One bullet for everything. I think you're going to enjoy that a lot more.
Can I say something?
Sure you can, hon.
I usually hunt with whatever rifle you bring. And now I've hunted with the outfitter's rifle. I will never do either. I am taking my own rifle that fits me, and I'm putting up with all the hassles. I'm not doing it. I'm having my own pH, and I'm not taking leftovers.
Well, honey, you can tell everybody about that when you start doing your own show next week. No, that's a good point, especially if you're a smaller frame shooter or a longer. I know I've been over there with guys who needed 15.5-inch length of pull. The average for someone like me, and most of the guys, is probably that 14.5-inch range. But God, you get a longer length of pull if you've got this great big pH with that, and he gives you a rifle and you're going, I can't quite reach it. Or if you're like Betsy and you need a shorter length of pull, you're not going to be too comfortable with a borrowed rifle. So yeah, good arguments for bringing your own. All right, now, speaking of Betsy's podcast, here we have some folks commenting on it. Now, if you missed it, guys, go back into the podcast. I don't know how far back this was. Not too many, but Betsy actually appeared visually right here on that podcast. She got brave and gave it a try.
No, my arm was twisted.
Your what? Your arm was twisted. Don't blame me for that shoulder surgery you had to endure. That's from all your kayaking. That's what caused that problem. And that cost you, too, because on a recent hunt, you didn't get to hunt a buffalo because you couldn't handle the recoil with your shoulder. Can't blame that one on me either. Boy, I'm off the hook this week. Anyway, let's see what folks had to say about Betsy being in front of the camera. This is from Doyle Thorne. Just wondering, that's not talking about Betsy. Oh, here it is. Rick Taylor. Betsy and Covey, and sometimes a little bit of Ron on the show. Just kidding. Betsy is a treasure, so thank you for being there, Betsy. 406 Mountain Man has something to say about Betsy. He says, Betsy, you were great. We most definitely need more of you. You guys compliment each other so well. Yeah, we also argue quite a bit. It's a yin-yang sort of a relationship. Anybody familiar with that in a marry? Oh, yeah. How about Roger Bossart? Don't hide Betsy any longer. Oh, the jig is up. Now they know she's out there. JMC says, great episode, capital letters. Standing ovation for Betsy. Ooh, you did great, Betsy. Oh, my God, her head has gotten 2 sizes bigger back there. Don't bump the camera. Back up, honey. John Hughes, I would bet most of us love having Betsy on this side of the camera. She's a real sweetheart and an awesome-looking gal to boot. Yeah, I kind of like the look myself.
That's enough. That's enough.
No, I'm going to embarrass the heck out of you for all those times
Done. Move on.
Oh, Betsy did awesome. More Betsy, please, from Thomas Guffey. Now, how about YLE Walters? Great job, Betsy. You two, sitting beside each other, would make for a great show. Keep up the great videos. And Ron, keep her beside you and in front of the camera more often. You're going to have to get over here, Bets. Everybody seems to be loving you here. Somebody's got to run her down. How about Augustus McCrae? Oh, no, this isn't working. I'd rather listen to Betsy.
Stop.
Oh, it's not. It should be the Betsy Spomer Outdoors Podcast. What did I tell you? That's it. Sorry, guys. I'm out of here. See you around. It's all yours, Betsy. I'm washed up.
No, come back.
That's what I want. I always wanted her to beg me to come back. All those times she put me out in the doghouse, gave me a couple of bones, and then she says, come back. All right, I'm back, but we are going to seriously consider dragging Betsy in front of the camera again. She'll probably have to have a spa day and get all spruced up and everything, but we'll see what we can do. What do you think, Bets?
I'll think about it.
Yeah, you'll think about it. Oh, yeah. Now, let's go back to this one that I thought was about you, but doesn't seem to be. This is about a 7mm Remington Magnum barrel. What has he got going on here? This is Doyle Thorne. Say, I'm just wondering about the 7mm mag barrel replacement for using heavier bullets. Do you think that the new barrel should have a longer than standard throat, as well as a tighter twist to take advantage of the new heavy, longer bullets? If not, wouldn't these bullets need to be pushed so far into the case that it would reduce velocity to a point of negating the benefits? So I'm just wondering. I had that problem with my 280. Will I have it with a 7-rem mag? All right. So, Doyle, if you are going to replace your 7mm Remington Magnum barrel and you want to use heavy bullets in the new barrel, yes, tell your gunsmith, whoever's doing this work for you, that you want to be shooting the longest bullets that your magazine and action can hold. Now, the 7mm Remington Magnum is the same standard length as the 30-06, the 270, the 280. It gets its horsepower from having a bigger case, the belted Magnum case from the 375 line. So that's where you get your extra powder space. And You're going to have a magazine in your various rifles that's going to fit that maximum length 30-06 of 3.34 inches. Some of them will be a little longer. In one of our 270 week videos, when we examined that Browning Fast Twist 270 Winchester, they had wisely stuck a full magnum length magazine in the bottom of that thing, which meant we could seat the bullets out to almost 3.6 inches, which really gave us a lot more powder space, which you sound like you're looking for right here. So if you can find a magazine that will handle a cartridge with the bullet seated out to an overall length of close to 3.6 inches, wowzer bowser, now you're going to be getting a lot more velocity out of that 7 rem mag. But you will probably need to throat it. In front of the chamber, they have to make that throat a little bit longer too, to accommodate that extra long seating of the bullet so you don't push it down into the powder space. And what Joseph and I found with that 270 was the longest bullets we loaded, which I think was the either the 170 Burger or the 175 grain Sierra Game King. We were able to seat those guys out so far that the beveled portion of the heel of the bullet where the boat tail is, that was protruding a little bit past the shoulder junction. Otherwise, man, we were getting a lot of powder into that case, and I think you're going to do the same with your 7 millimeter mags. So tell your smith, who's ever doing your barrel work in your chambering, say, I want to set this thing up to shoot the 180 grain bullets in my 7 rem mag, or whatever long bullet you have. Just give them all the details, and you could make a dummy round as well. Seat that bullet to where it reaches your maximum length that he can handle, and say, this is the length you need to throat it for, and then tell him whether or not you want a little bit of jump in that bullet or not, if you want it closer to the lands. If you're going to be shooting copper bullets, they generally like him to be seated a little bit deeper, and then they seem to be more accurate when they're not near the lands. But some traditional bullets often shoot really well when they're close to where the rifling begins at the end of the throat, the beginning of the barrel. All those things you need to discuss with your gunsmith. But you're on it, so good luck with that. Now, I think we're done hearing about the Betsy love here. I hope she's fully embarrassed. She looks pretty red back there, red in the face, so I think we'll drop that now. Here's one more on the 7 rem mag. Overkill? 33 Journeyman writes, and he says, a 7 millimeter Remington Magnum is utterly ridiculous and unneeded for whitetail in Minnesota. Ron, can you see now how your high BC hype and faster twist barrels have misled so many hunters? It's sickening. Whoa, sickening. This guy's taking this stuff really seriously. Oh, boy. No, I don't think knowing about high BC bullets, understanding what they can do for your energy levels and your velocity and all that is misleading. The more information we have, the better informed we are. You can make your own decisions on this stuff. I don't see where I'm forcing anyone to use high BC bullets. I'm just explaining what they are, what they do, what the benefits are, and what some of the drawbacks are. I don't find a lot of drawbacks to them myself, but suit yourself on that one. But man, I didn't know I was sickening anybody. How about Guarak? Oh, he's responding to Journeyman right here. He says, hey, I'll add a bit more context to what you said since I was the one with the 7 rem mag question. I am a one rifle kind of person. Before I settled on the 7 millimeter Remington Magnum, I did a lot of research so that I wouldn't have to buy multiple rifles in different calibers. So that way I'm able to hunt larger species as well as the smaller ones. I am ready and well trained. I also reload, so my whitetail loads involve a 139 grain Hornady CX or a Barnes LRX. If and when I get a chance at an elk, I'll be shooting a heavier grain bullet. As Ron recommended, I have used the Burger Stability Calculator, and I have found that in order to stabilize the heavier grain bullets, I need a faster twist rate. I also enjoy shooting sports, and there are a few opportunities for me to try the NRL Hunter nearby, so I will use the same rifle, reload it, and take full advantage of the high BC 7mm bullets for that. I have taken a buck with my 7mm Remington Magnum. in the rifle zone of Minnesota, I assume. Last year with the 139 grain reloads mentioned above, and it did great. I didn't lose any meat. The deer tasted delicious. I had him mounted, and he has yet to complain about being shot with a 7mm Remington Magnum. Good response there, Guarak. Yeah, that's the way to understand this stuff. We all decide what we want to do, and these cartridges are wonderfully versatile. This idea that a Magnum or a high-velocity cartridge is going to blow your animal into 17 different pieces and you're not going to be able to eat it and all that stuff, it's just not the way it works. But if you enjoy a lower energy cartridge, if you want to shoot a 32 special or a 30-30, go for it. It's a free country, and as long as you are doing a good job and you're enjoying your tools and you're being successful, you don't have to run anybody else's choices down to enjoy yours. Let's see what Lyle Walters 909 has to say. Hey Ron, as for fixing accuracy in an auto-loading rifle, something that friends and I have found that works is the EC tuner brake. That's Eric Cortina's. That's kind of funny. EC tuner. Eric has an accent. He speaks Spanish, I would guess by his accent. So he says for EZ, it comes out as EC. That's the EC tuner on the front of his rifle. And he very cleverly, self-deprecatingly named his little design the EC tuner, EC. So, and it really works. A lot of guys have great luck with that thing. It's kind of like the Boss. Remember back in the day, about 20, 25 years ago, Browning and Winchester came out with the Boss system, which was kind of a tuner weight, adjustable weight on the end of the barrel, out in the muzzle. And you would turn it out or in to adjust the weight on the end of your barrel and change the vibrations, and you could dial it to just the right position to improve your accuracy. It lasted for quite a while, but a lot of people just didn't really like the mass of it hanging out of the end of it. These days, of course, we're hanging suppressors on the end of our barrels, so that old Boss system doesn't look all that massive anymore. The EC tuner is kind of like that. Yeah, it's a little bit bulky on the end of your barrel, but it really does the job. So if you're looking for some good accuracy in a rifle that just doesn't traditionally want to give it, well, according to Lyle here, it really works with this EC tuner. He continues to say exactly how well it worked by saying that the change in my buddy's BAR in 300 Win Mag, that's the Browning automatic rifle, was amazing. It went from shooting 1.5 to 3-inch groups at 100 yards to a 1-inch or better groups at 100 yards. We tested 5 different brands of ammo and bullet weights, and the only change was to adjust that EC tuner. I don't get this one. Trust meshes needed all the help he could get. Must be his friend's name or something. At any rate, he's a great friend. I love him like a brother, but I've seen him miss extra large pizza boxes at 50 yards. Oh, if we wouldn't have friends, what would we do? The EC tuner brake is a great tool, and I'm getting a few myself. I hope that helps Zach, who asked about getting accuracy in his autoloader. All right, thanks for the tips on that one, Lyle. Oh, now here's something about this, the Just Cause Solutions ammo pack. I demonstrated this thing in, it was the 8.6 Blackout Q rifle that I was testing. Did that video, and I just mentioned in there that I really like this system for holding cartridges because they don't fall out like most cartridge boxes. And I'd never seen one of these before. So I think Betsy put a short out, just that one piece where I said, boy, this is really a cool way to store your ammunition. I really like it. And a lot of people commented on that. And Stephen Cunningham 4680 said, I love that design. That case ought to be sold separately so you could buy it and refill it over and over again with your favorite ammo. Well, I don't know if it is sold separately, but you can use it once, like this one, we're done. If I used up all my ammo and I wanted to switch to something else, as long as you have roughly the same body diameter, it should work. Here is a 22 Creedmoor. Yeah, that snaps right in there. See that? So that's pretty handy. Here's a 308 Winchester. Let's see if that one fits. Should. Snaps right in there. And that's reusable. I don't know how long it would last, but I just thought that was pretty cool. So let's see what some other folks say about it, because I see there's more. Now, Joe S. Finland doesn't like it. He says, more plastic, just what we needed. And Chris Guns and Guitars says, convenient, but we need less plastic packaging in this world, less styrofoam too. And Richard Lucas says, I shoot so much that I use Ziploc baggies. More plastic. Hey, I understand about the plastic, guys, but come on, in this day and age, what isn't plastic, for gosh sake? Plastic on the microphone, plastic on my knife sheath here, plastic in your underwear. You're probably wearing plastic clothes. Plastic is everywhere. To pick out a silly little case like this and denigrate it, I don't know. I mean, I appreciate that stuff, but in this day and age, I get more plastic wrapped around my packaging than in the packaging, and it serves no function. I just end up throwing it away like all the rest of us. So, yeah, if they could make this out of something that were not a petrochemical plastic, maybe they're making this stuff out of corn. There are some plastics I heard that are made out of corn or vegetables of some kind, but plastic aside, I just think the design is really quite simple and brilliant, and I love the way it holds onto that ammunition. And it looks to me like it's going to last quite a while. They snap in and out nicely, and I'll be practicing and working with this, just seeing how long this thing lasts, but I think it's a fairly nice little option. Right now, the only one I've ever seen using it is this Just Cause Solutions, and I had never seen that ammunition before until I got this 8.6 Blackout and looked up some options on ammo, and here it was. So I'm having a lot of fun with that rifle and this ammunition and the plastic case. Oh, and here's Blue Dog Ranch, who says that they call these things clamtainers. Containers, clamtainers. Makes sense, kind of like a clam. Patrick Thompson, something about stocks. Oh, we did a little shorty on aftermarket stocks, and will they increase accuracy? A lot of people say, oh, if you want a more accurate rifle, get a better stock for it. I've always kind of questioned that. I mean, I can see where it might work if the new stock has a good, consistent bedding platform, for instance, and the old one didn't. But I don't see how it could really make the rifle all that more accurate. But then people say, well, if it fits the shooter better, it helps him be more accurate or her be more accurate. I can agree with that as well. Let us see what Patrick Thompson has to say about it. Free floating is a great idea, but I don't see it being necessary unless you're doing 800-plus yard shots, so you can accommodate a bull barrel with less flex. But if you are just hunting within 300 yards, I think you're better off just spending some time learning your shot pattern from the rifle and not worrying about switching out the stock. Now, I had mentioned in this stock thing, one of the advantages of it is it might be already sanded out, channeled, so that your barrel will be floating and not touching. A lot of these plastic stocks from inexpensive rifles end up with the stock being slightly bent and touching your barrel on one side or the other, and that can ruin your accuracy. But these aftermarket stocks, like what I was saying about the proper bedding where everything's good and level and even, you get a free-floated barrel, and that usually makes it more accurate. But Patrick here doesn't think it's really worth fussing with, but I think it is. Betsy?
We actually tested that on the Wooks. Wasn't that the Wooks stock?
Yes.
Yes, and it did improve your accuracy.
Yeah, it did. Whether it was because it was more tightly bedded or the barrel was floating more consistently or what. But see, the idea with barrel floating, guys, is that some barrels, most barrels in my experience, if they don't have any kind of contact other than screwed to the front of the action, the receiver, they're going to vibrate consistently and you're going to get consistent accuracy. If you have a stock that's touching or almost touching, you put different pressures on that stock as you're holding it, that can change it. Or if it swells with moisture, that's one of the reasons we got away from the walnut stocks and went with synthetic stocks. So having a free-floating barrel just sort of gets all that stuff's out the window. You don't have to worry about it anymore. But other rifles are accurate when they have a full-length bedded stock. And some of them when they have a pressure point at the front of the stock. And one thing you'll notice if you look at some of the old rifles from the middle of the 20th century, like the Model 70s we often cover, they used to have a stock-to-barrel screw up front. So you've got your attachment screw right by the recoil lug, and then one back at the tang by the trigger guard to hold that stock to the rifle. Well, they would put another one up front that went into the bottom of the barrel on a lug that was attached to the barrel. That added some more tension up there and tamed the vibrations. They've really gotten away from that. But if you have a problem rifle that doesn't want to be accurate, you can sand out the channel to float the barrel, or you can full-length glass bed the barrel as well as the action platform area to get it all stable and steady and stiffer. And that full-length bedding, I think that's the advantage there. It makes it stiffer, so your fairly lightweight barrel is now more like a bull barrel, a heavier barrel, because the stock is strengthening it against vibration. And then a similar thing with having a pressure point right up front near the end or the tip of the rifle. So different things that we play around with here when we're customizing our rifles. But switching to one of these aftermarket stocks can make a difference for you for all those reasons and probably a few more. Now, Nightworks XTV writes in about the same thing, it looks like. I have a 100% proved this with a super budget rifle. It was a Ruger American Predator Generation 1. I took it to the range in its plastic stock, and I shot a 5-round group with the ammo that the rifle liked the best, which was Hornady American Gunner 6.5 Creedmoor. Well, it grouped from 0.85 inches to a 0.5 inch group just by changing it into or dropping it into an MDT XRS chassis stock. We then put it back into its original plastic stock, and the group went right back up to the 0.85 inch group, which isn't a bad group, guys. But we changed it one more time to the MDT stock, and that group shrunk back to a half MOA. So, quarter MOA improvement, it's not a big deal, but if you're a target shooter, it's a big deal. So, yeah, Nightworks found out that switching to a different stock made more accuracy. What about Mark Carey? This latest trend has taken the shooting sports from the organic art form that they were to an engineering nightmare. I would rather throw rocks than shoot that ugly gun. Yeah, that was the Wooks. Guys, if you haven't seen this Wooks chassis, it is one person's idea of a beautiful stock design, I guess. If you know chassis rifles, they've got a metal rifle stock essentially, and they bed them very reliably to that flat metal surface and everything else just underneath your receiver and your action. But then they wanted to spruce it up a little bit with some walnut. So they added wood to the metal. So it's a combination of all aluminum and then some fancy walnut pieces here and there. And then the butt is opened up to one of those butt stocks that has all the holes and rails and dials and stuff in it for adjusting your comb height and your length of pull and everything. Functional, greatly functional thing, and it really works. But as Mark said, it's ugly. Well, some people think it's beautiful. And this is, again, the point about complaining and telling other people to get off the bus. One man's ugly is another man's beautiful. I'm sorry. It's just aesthetics. You either like it or you don't. I'm not going to condemn some rifle because I think it's ugly, because you might think it's beautiful. And please give me the opportunity to have the same opinion on my beautiful rifles. How about you, Betsy? You like ugly rifles?
No, I like the Wooks.
You like the Wooks. You like your Q-Fix too, don't you?
I do. I like a rifle that actually fits me.
I think it's the fit more than the look that you're interested in. But you're pretty pragmatic.
Well, I'm not hung up on a traditional rifle.
That's true. You have a traditional husband, and that's enough tradition for you.
That is enough.
See, I'm kind of like her rifles, and I'm not much to look at, but I'm accurate. Okay, let's hear what Bearded Rancher has to say. Oh, same thing. Those stocks sure are ugly. Now, proper bedding and proper fitment matter, and a free-floated barrel can be achieved, but you can do that with sandpaper. As I mentioned earlier, sand the channel out, and your barrel is no longer touching it. That's a common way of doing it. And William Kaiser says, well, I would agree with you, but I shoot lever actions almost exclusively, and how can I free-float those? All it would do is free the magazine. Can you buy a new stock that would make a difference? I will concede that a new trigger probably would help, but I'll research that. But for my money, I think a new rear sight is the single best change I could make to improve the accuracy of my lever action rifles. Yeah, lever actions, of course, you're talking traditional lever action. Model 94 Winchesters, the Marlins, all the ones that have that band up front that tie the fore-end wood to the barrel and the tube. Remember that tubular magazine underneath the barrel? And that changes everything. With a modern barrel and a bolt action rifle, it's just the barrel hanging out there. And the weight on that barrel never changes. If you have a free-floating stock, you don't put any changing pressures on it. Well, with the traditional lever action rifles and the tubular magazines, not only do you have the tube hanging off the barrel, and you have the stock tied to the barrel with that barrel band up front, and how tight is that, and all those sorts of things. Has the wood dried up and shrunk or gotten wet and swollen? That's going to change things. Part of the reason why traditional lever actions don't have a reputation for stellar accuracy. However, there are some that don't have that. And the one I'm thinking of right now is this new Henry Supreme. And we got some half MOA groups with that thing when we tested it. And prior to that, we had a Henry, what was that? The Long Ranger. And that one gave us half MOA. And I think both of those have the fore end hanging on a hanger bar that sticks out of the receiver. They're not tied to the stock. And they don't have tubular magazines. They have traditional vertically stacked clip magazines in the bottom. The clip magazine, now you guys can write in and chew me out for saying clip. That was a traditional colloquialism for a dropout magazine, a clip magazine. And a lot of people take umbrage with that. It's not a clip, it's a magazine. Okay, we get it. But back in the day, they sold those and advertised them as clips. Remington said, you need another clip for your rifle? Hey, we're on sale. Clips are on sale. Well, good enough for Remington. It was good enough for us. All right. So, hey, you lever action guys, you can find a lever action rifle that does have a floated barrel. But I'm not sure you could do it with a Model 94 or a 336. Now, Riley Neufeld says, he's talking about BLRs, the Browning BLR. Let's see what he has to say. Hey, it's not possible to free float it due to the magazine tubes that are attached to the barrel, like I said, and the fore end attached to both. But even the Browning BLR with its magazine-fed design, that one has that vertical stack magazine underneath. That isn't free floated either because they have the barrel band on it. There are plenty of non-free floated designs that still shoot precisely. The limited ballistics of lever-action cartridges is what really limits them to where maximum responsible hunting ranges should be, and it's below 400 yards most of the time, likely half that with your old traditional 357, 44 mag, 30-30, 45-70 and those. Good points there, Riley. That's interesting about the Browning BLR. When we did, was it 308 week, honey, or 30-06?
At 30-06.
The most accurate rifle we tested in all of those, and I think there were like 10 or a dozen of them, most of them bolt actions, we had a Browning BLR. It was the most accurate of the bunch. The most accurate. So this isn't always that it's a modern design with a free-floating barrel that makes it the most accurate. So there you go. Now we're going to switch from lever actions to something most of us have never shot. In a rifle, pump actions. We did something on the 35 Remington Model 141 pump action rifle. Oh my gosh, was this thing fun. I love pump rifles. I don't like the look of them necessarily, but the function is so much fun, and they're so fast and slick. So we did some stuff on that, borrowed it from a friend. My friend John Haviland has one, and we had a blast with that thing. So let's see what people have to say about that topic. Ames Frizzle. Hey, I love a pump rifle. Wish they were still made. I have two Model 7600s, one in 30-06, the other 35 Whalen, and I was always hoping that Remington will bring them back or somebody else will make clones. Yeah, you hear that a lot. I think Remington stopped offering those around 2020. Somebody said they went as long as 2020, but maybe it was a little earlier than that they quit making those. Of course, they weren't real popular in the last 30 or 40 years because we all got into the super accuracy with bolt action rifles. But boy, in a lot of parts of the country where you're hunting at 100 to 200 yards, having that slick, quick pump action rifle in the woods and all made perfect sense, especially with something like a 30-06 and a 35 Whalen. So I don't know if they're ever going to bring those things back. I think I mentioned on that video that you cannot find a pump action rifle anymore, but some folks wrote in and told me I was full of it. So let's keep reading. Don't say it, Betsy. Don't say it.
No, I was going to say that 35 Remington video is on RSO TV only now.
Yeah, that was a little bit of conflict with the bosses in the world out there, and they said, you're in trouble with that one. We better move it to RSO TV. If you guys would like to look at our videos and podcasts and such without the advertising, you can go to RSO TV and join there. Everything is there, plus a few things that we've never put onto the social channels. It's $5 a month to get that, so you could
go to our website.
Go to the website to get there?
Yeah.
All right, you heard it. RonSpomerOutdoors.com. Betsy told you. T. Callis has something to say about that pump action Remington. He says, look at that gun, that Model 7600. That started out as a Model 14 way back when. That was about 1908 or something like that. And then became the Model 141. That's the one we reviewed. And then it was upgraded to the Model 760 and then finally the 7600. And he says a premium Model 6. I didn't know about that one. Lovingly known in Pennsylvania as the, tongue-in-cheek now, Amish machine gun. I've heard that before. There are a lot of Amish hunters in Pennsylvania. Those guys are serious hunters, and they like that rifle, according to many of the folks I've talked to, including a lot of the Amish that used to come to the deer shows that we did back there. They really love those pump actions, so the locals kind of labeled them the Amish machine gun. So he continues, try to buy one at an auction sale, and you had better have a pocket full of cash. They are great rifles. Yeah, when there's a limited supply on the used market, I would imagine the price goes up. Now, Burns Boys Are Soldiers writes to say, really, it shows the drastic change in our hunting styles here in the U.S. Fantastic rifle for a drive or tracking deer, but these days we mostly hunt from stands, and stands, well, that's how the nobility hunted back in the day because it was leisurely and it was their pastime. So pump-action rifles, not so popular anymore since we're not still hunting through the woods and doing drives. Tony Carter says, I don't understand why a manufacturer doesn't start making pump actions again, either a Savage 170 or a Remington 7600. Now, what is the Savage 170, guys? Apparently that's a pump action rifle I don't know about. Anybody has some good information on the Savage 170 pump action centerfire rifle? Let us hear about it. Brian Kopp 1369. Hey, that looks like an 870. It's like so many other absolute trash rifles made cheap for silly people. Oh, gosh, here we go again. Listen, guys, I appreciate that you love your rifle. Once again, you do not have to denigrate everyone else's choices. If you don't like cheap trash rifles, don't blame us silly people for liking them.
Hey, I like those comments.
You like those comments, huh? Well, at least they didn't call me silly this time. Next time they will. Green Knight 1979. The Krieghoff Semprio is the finest pump-action rifle in the world and still being made. That's right. I forgot about that. Krieghoff Semprio. Yes, we covered that many years ago, Betsy. Do you remember that? I think we were hunting with an outfitter up in North Idaho. It's a reverse pump action rifle from either Austria or Germany, Krieghoff. Yeah, it pumped backwards. So guys, imagine this. You're holding your rifle, you shoot, instead of pumping back like an 870 does, a pump action rifle, you pump forward and come back. And that's how it cycled it. I remember it now. It was pretty accurate, pretty slick, pretty fast. Those are popular in Europe because of the driven boar hunts that they do. So, yeah, there are still some pump action rifles out there. Thank you for that, Green Knight. I had forgotten all about that. You might want to look into the pump action rifles from Krieghoff. That's Krieghoff. Don't see a lot of those over there, but they make fine rifles over in Europe, and that's one of them. All right, now, what's this about? This is somebody commenting about my 8.6 blackout with the 1 in 3 inch twist rate. Can you guys imagine that? That thing's rifling twist makes one complete turn in just 3 inches of travel. Now your 30-06, 1 in 10. 270, 1 in 10. 10 inches of travel to make one. And now a lot of the long high BC shooting cartridges like the PRCs and stuff, they've gone to 1 in 8 or 1 in 7.5, and they can stabilize those longer bullets. But this thing, this 8.6, 1 in 3. So what they're doing is they're giving this bullet rotational energy, a lot of it, high revolutions. And that is easily maintained. And then if you use an all copper bullet with a hollow nose like I have here from this company, this is a Maker. Oh, I wish I had the expanded bullet here. But you can see there's a hollow nose in this thing, and the edges of it are skived. You can see a slice that's in it. So it's been set up to open easily. So when a little bit of tissue and moisture gets into that hollow nose, those peel back and they stick out 4 times the original diameter of the bullet. So you've got blades in there, and with a 1 in 3 twist, you are throwing energy and doing tissue damage away from the main travel route of that bullet. The wound channel is wider than it would normally be, and the twist rate is supposedly helping with that. So it's a different way of approaching it. And Rennie Perry says, I feel that there's too much twist in that barrel. The rifling will get damaged quickly, and the bullet will be damaged too. Well, I don't quite think that's accurate, Ren. I understand where you're thinking. A lot of people think that the barrel gets worn out by the bullet passing down it, and you're thinking that with that faster twist, you're putting all that pressure and energy on the edges of those rifling grooves, and that's going to damage it. But copper bullets, gilding metal jacketed bullets, and lead bullets aren't going to be damaging that hard steel. And barrels don't wear out from that before they've worn out from the heat at the throat when you set off your cartridge. All that hot powder burning at, I've forgotten the temperatures, but flash temperatures are up in the thousands on that thing. That's what does the damage to your rifling so that your rifle loses accuracy. Don't worry about this 1 in 3 twist thing. That's not the problem. All right, that looks like everything that I have. Betsy, I'll bet you've got something for me here, huh?
Yeah.
What did you bring up? Something nice?
Yeah, they're nice. They're questions from our website.
Yeah, questions from the website. Anybody chewing me out this time?
No, the people who write into the website generally are very nice.
Oh, well, good. Let's see just how nice they are, starting with Jake from Missouri. Hey, Ron, this maybe isn't a question, but rather a statement with water muddling intent. I love new cartridges like the Creedmoors and the PRCs. They are excellent tools, and I do use them in competition. But I choose to hunt with a 30-06. Call me a romantic, but an .06 is to me as much a reminder of my heritage as an American, as an outdoorsman, as well as all of the greats who have gone before me and continue to go today. It's a wonderful hunting cartridge. People seem to forget that the design of the .06, which is 120 years old next year, it still holds up today. They also underestimate the beauty and function of the smooth case feeding that comes from a little body taper. Many people call the 30-06 boring these days, while those same people, I presume, who would call Roosevelt and Hemingway dull. Are these the people who shoot a cartridge designed by CAD software and quick load? No skin. I wish them well and hope they continue to shoot what excites them. I hope they do not berate me for my poor choice of what excites me. Yes, you're echoing what I was saying earlier. You don't have to run anybody else's choices down just because you have a different one. And the good old .06, as many people know and tell me anytime I kind of poke a little dig at it, it's always a great choice. The 30-06 is never the wrong choice. That's kind of the standard line on that baby. And I really appreciate what you're saying and what you're doing here with the hunting heritage. I think that's a great reason to use a certain cartridge and rifle. Yeah, you don't have to use all the latest, greatest, most efficient marvels to enjoy a hunt. That's why I got that single shot Park West Arms SD10 in 757 Mauser. I could have spent my money on the latest, greatest, fastest, most accurate thing out there, but I'm interested in a hunt and all the things that you mentioned, my connection to the past, my connection to Roosevelt and the African hunters like Salou, and they were using single shots, and it just gives my mind something to think about or appreciate as I'm out there hunting. Am I good enough to take an animal with a single shot? And if you apply yourself and you learn field craft and stalking and all the rest of it, of course you are. So whatever makes you happy, go for it. Now they're going to move from Missouri to Texas, and we're going to move from a Jake to a Josh. But that's close. Another hey Ron. See, boy, Jake and Josh start off their letters exactly the same. Hey Ron. Hey Ron, hey Ron. Isn't there a song like that? No, that's Do Ron, Do Ron. Okay. Hey Ron, I have the information you were spreading through your writing and your YouTube channel. No, I love that information. Not I have it, I love it. Well, good. I appreciate that, Josh. I have a question on your recommendation of a cartridge, and I hope maybe it stirs up a debate among you and your viewers. Probably will. I have hunted all my life, and I'm looking for a more obscure thumper of a cartridge. I have many of the common varieties, 22, a 270, a 30, a 6, a 7 mag, a 300 Win mag, etc. But I'm looking for a cartridge with a high caliber, at least 35 caliber, but low recoil to be fired from a lightweight rifle, and I want to use it on deer, hogs, and the occasional black bear. What I want to know is, what is the black bear one? It's not occasionally a black bear. Is it occasionally an elk? Just a little joke there, guys. Also, I don't hand load, so I'm finding a rifle and ammo that has to be possible. So yeah, okay, factory loads in a 35, 37, 38, 40, 45 caliber, 50 caliber that doesn't recoil. You're making a tough one here, buddy. Well, of course, the 35 Remington comes up quickly for me as a low recoil option. 200 grain bullet, only going around 2,100 feet per second, so that's pretty reasonable recoil. You can go to a 45-70, but in a lightweight rifle, that shoots 300 grain bullets. You could maybe go down a little lighter than that, but generally that's the light end on that one. So you're going to have a pretty good thump with that. So no, that's not a great option. 38s. Well, you could go with a 357 Magnum handgun cartridge in a rifle, and you could shoot 38 specials in it. So that would keep the real low recoil. I don't know if I'd want to use that on the occasional black bear, but I'm sure it would work with the right bullet in the right place. So that's an option. What else? 35, 37. What do you guys think? 38, 37. Can you think of any 37s? 375 H&H. There's the old 348 Winchester. That was actually it's a .348 inch diameter bullet, so it's a little less than 35. But that one has a reputation for some thump. That was considered to be a good elk round, so that's probably not going to work for you. What else is out there? Once you get into that 35 and up, you just have mass in that bullet, and that's what always gives you the thump, even with a light load of powder. So think about some of those pistol cartridges, 44 Rem Mag, maybe even a 454 Casull. You get pretty good velocity out of that one. But in a rifle, it's going to tame the recoil pretty nicely. So I think that's the route you're going to want to take. Traditional centerfire rifle cartridges, little harder to come in with that light recoil. But those are some things you should consider, Josh. And they'll all work well on deer, hogs, and bear because guys use revolvers with those cartridges all the time.
Can he put a muzzle brake on it or suppressor?
Yeah, he didn't say he was interested in that, but of course you can always do that. The brake is going to blow your ears out, but boy, Betsy shot a 300 Win Mag one time that had a beautiful brake on the front of it and just mild as could be. She didn't have any problem shooting that thing, but ooh, the sound that comes out of those. So put a suppressor on the front, and that'll tame the recoil as well as the sound. So you might want to consider that. Then you could go with one of those bigger 35s like the Wayland. Oh, 358 Winchester. That's the 308 necked up to 35s. Of course, sort of the younger brother of the 35 Wayland. That might be a reasonable option for you too. All right, now John from Shawnee, Kansas. 2 questions. Are there spotting scopes for shooting, not necessarily for glassing, that have reticles and grids in them, an MOA or a MILRAD, to help the spotter and advise how far off a shot was? Oh, absolutely. Yeah, most of the spotting scopes out there will offer that grid option in your eyepiece. So, yeah, you can go for those, no problem. Now, second question is, if you custom made a 7mm 08 rifle with a fast 8-inch twist barrel, could you hand load high BC bullets to get better performance than factory loads, which usually use a 1 in 10 twist rate? Would this setup duplicate other 7mm loads already around? Well, it'd come close to duplicating it because there are so many 7mm rounds around, and many of them are similar to the 708. 757 Mauser being the most prominent one. But yes, if you go to a 1 in twist, you can load the higher BC bullets. That 757 single shot I mentioned earlier from Park West Arms, I had them make that with a 1 in 8-inch twist barrel in case I wanted to shoot some really long bullets for something. Say I wanted to do a special moose hunt with it, and I wanted to use a 175 grain bullet or a sleek high BC bullet someday just to play around and try something different. You're not going to lose accuracy with your traditional weight bullets with a faster twist. It just gives you the option of going with the longer and heavier ones. So yes, you could do it. Now your velocity out of that 708 is going to be pretty low with a big long bullet like that. But I would assume you're going to use it for a closer range shot. And again, moose hunting inside of 200 yards, maybe even inside of 100 yards. You're going to get good penetration with that big heavy bullet. So yeah, you can certainly do it. Up in Alaska, we hear from Levi. Ron, I'm an avid listener, and there's been quite the talk recently about the 7mm backcountry cartridge. What is your opinion on reloading that new steel alloy case? I've read that there's a special coating inside and out because of the steel and rust issues. That's true. But what does that mean after we case trim and clean and wet dry or dry tumble? The case will definitely not have coating after you've trimmed it on the edges. So what do you think? Is this going to be an issue going forward? Yeah, definitely will. The coatings are keeping it rust-proof, reportedly, supposedly, in the factory loads. But once you've fired it, and then if your neck grows a little bit long and you have to trim it, you've exposed that steel edge with no coating on it, as you're saying. So yeah, you've got to watch out for the rust issue there, unless somebody comes up with some kind of a coating you could paint on there, like nail polish or something. I don't know what's going to happen there. I would say for anyone who loves to hand load and you're considering that 7mm backcountry, do quite a bit of investigating. They say now that they have, using normal dies, I guess, they have gotten 3 reloads out of a case. Whether that's accurate or not, I don't know. But obviously, a steel case, you're not going to have the resilience and bounce back of brass. So all the traditional things we do to load are probably going to be a little bit different with this thing. So the jury is kind of still out on that. But you are right to ask these questions about the rust issue. Okay. Now, I also mentioned that some of their less expensive ammunition, they specify that it does not have these coatings on it. So you are not going to be able to expect those to not rust. They figure that's a one and done sort of a deal. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, Federal. But they said something at the SHOT Show about some cases, the premium line, it's going to have all those coatings on it. But the other ones, not. All right, Darcy in Australia. I like this. We're going from Alaska to Australia. G'day. I love that. G'day. G'day from Australia, Ron. Going to be a long-winded one here, so sorry, guys. But I hear you talking about flinching and the methods to prevent it. Well, when I was 15 years old, and my father gifted me a Tikka T3X walnut stick, or stock, and stainless steel barrel chambered in 30-06. What a first rifle. And he thought me, good eye relief, proper shouldering, and it won't hurt you. He taught me that. It's spelled thought, but I think he means taught. So he taught him that it wouldn't kick and wouldn't hurt him if he shouldered it properly and had enough eye relief so the scope didn't bang you in the head. Got it. If only ever caught me off guard once when I was snap shooting a wild pig and not shouldering it. And boy, did I learn from that mistake. I recently had the opportunity to purchase a CZ 550 Safari Classic in 416 Rigby. Now, I'm not a big fella. I'm 26 standing, just at 6 foot, weighing 83 kilograms, and everyone told me to, take 2 shots and then 2 Panadol. That must be a pain reliever down there in Australia. Well, I couldn't wait to shoot it, so I raced home as soon as I got it, straight up to the paddock of our cattle property. I set up 3 4-gallon drums with water, grabbed my gun, put 3 in the magazine, loaded the rifle, shouldered it tightly, and boom! Loaded another round and prepared to shoot twice. It wasn't as bad as everyone said. Actually, it was quite enjoyable. I guess what I'm saying is, if proper shouldering and grip techniques are used, a gun should never boot you. I love listening to you and all of your wisdom. Regards, hunt honest and shoot straight. Well, thanks for that encouragement, and I think you're absolutely right. If you do things right, if you handle that rifle properly, you should be able to handle the recoil. And Betsy has proven that by shooting a 375 H&H with 300 grain bullets. And Connie Brooks was using, I think she was using a 416 Remington Magnum. Does that sound right? Tia Shoemaker, a little gal up in Alaska, who's actually a professional guide and a bear hunter, she uses a 416 Remington for everything. She even took a mountain sheep with it. So if those gals who probably weigh 100, 110 pounds, they can shoot those big kickers, I don't see why you guys can't. Australians could certainly handle it. But yeah, it's mostly about technique. I recently shot a 416 and I forgot I was shooting a 416, and instead of leaning into it properly, I was waiting for the right shot opportunity on a buffalo, and I was standing up perfectly straight on these tripod sticks that the PHs use. So I was just a little too straight up and a little too lightly handling that rifle, and it knocked me back. I had to actually put my foot back to catch myself. So if you don't have a lot of body mass to stop this stuff, you've got to use the right technique. Now, I did get the buffalo, so that part I had right. All right, good advice, Darcy. Thanks for that. And enjoy that 416. That Rigby is a great round. It's a classic. I have used it to take eland and I think 2 buffalo now, maybe 3. And Betsy is saying, you need to wrap this show up. You're going long. Sure enough, I'm over an hour. All right, Robert from Texas. Hi, Ron. Followed up for the African campfire talk. Hey, how many cartridges did you suggest taking for each gun? I'll be hunting about 6 days in Africa. I'm thinking about 40 to 60. Yeah, 40 is going to be more than enough for each gun. At least it's been that in my experience. I used to take 40 over for each gun, and then I backed it down to 30 and then to 20. But sometimes you have a little issue and you need to re-zero and things, you can start to use up your ammo. But if you've got a good, reliable rifle, good ammo, and you shoot straight, it shouldn't take you more than 1 to maybe 2 or 3 shots to get each animal. So I think 40 is more than plenty. You might back it down to 30, but I think you should be all right then. And then finally, Jody says, why does nobody talk about the 22 Winchester rimfire? It seemed like it just fell to the wayside. Yeah, it's been replaced by the Magnum, the 22 Winchester Magnum. This was kind of a previous version of the Magnum, and it sort of went away. But that's why. And I don't think anybody chambers rifles for it anymore. Well, we got a few more questions on here, but Betsy says I'm going long and I ought to shut up. So I guess if you guys haven't fallen asleep yet, you're on your own at this point. I'll done droning on. Next time we're going to have Betsy up here. Something better to look at.
Maybe.
If you want Betsy, write in. We're going to have a survey.
Stop.
Okay, guys, hunt honest and shoot straight.